There are two vital pieces of legislation in Congress now that I think are necessary to help us win the war on terror. We will work with members of both parties to get legislation that works out of the Congress. First bill will allow us to use military commissions to try suspected terrorists for war crimes. We need the legislation because the Supreme Court recently ruled that military commissions must be explicitly authorized by Congress. So we're working with Congress. The Supreme Court said you must work with Congress. We are working with Congress to get a good piece of legislation out.
As great as, if not greater than, the benefits of loyalty to the Bush administration, see Rumsfeld Donald or Hastert Dennis, are the risks of defiance. For that, one need look no further than the career of U.S. Navy lawyer Charles Swift. Our third story in the countdown tonight, Lieutenant Commander Swift's reward for successfully defending his client before the U.S. Supreme Court in a case to which he was involuntarily assigned was, you probably guessed it, being fired this week by the Navy, or in military parlance, getting passed over for promotion. It undoubtedly did not help that Commander Swift's client was Salim Ahmed Hamdan, the alleged al-Qaeda operative, also a bodyguard and driver to Osama bin Laden, now being held as an enemy combatant at Gitmo. No doubt also raising some hackles, Commander Swift's comparing his boss to King George III in court, but arguing that President Bush overstepped his authority in ordering military war trials for terror detainees did help Commander Swift win his case. The Supreme Court, you may recall, ruling in June by a 5-3 majority in favor of dismantling the current tribunal system. Lieutenant Commander Charles Swift joins us now. Good evening, Commander. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Keith.
Not to downplay the significance of what's happened to you, but were you at all surprised by this decision?
Well, I knew that when I'd taken the Hamdan case, that I'd stepped off the normal career path, and that would make it more difficult to get promoted. As far as the outcome of the Hamdan decision in the Supreme Court, I was confident that we were going to win it. It was the right decision.
Earlier this year, the National Law Journal listed the 100 most influential lawyers in the country, and you're on that list. Is there irony or bitterness that you're now also one of the most influential unemployed lawyers in the country?
Well, you know, I won't be unemployed till next summer when I'll retire. But in the sense of the National Law Journal listing me, I was incredibly flattered. It was validation that what I was doing was being effective, and that was, to me, the most important thing, was to explain why the commission system was unfair and was actually illegal and a mistake in our history. And that, you know, the feedback from my peers that I was being effective in that was extremely gratifying.
Two questions about this case. Is it true that access to your client was conditional upon his admission of guilt?
Yes, it was. And the original part, when I was, the letter that asked me to be assigned to him, or for someone to be detailed, said that access was only, or access to him was conditioned on working out a guilty plea. And that was the most difficult thing for me ethically, was how to deal with that in taking the case. And I decided that the only way I could do that was offer him an option B, and that would have been, and was, to sue in the federal courts to try to get a fair trial, a second option. And once I decided that those were the two options, and went down and talked to him, from then on every decision was pretty easy.
Will you still be representing him? And regardless, what's the next stage of his defense?
Well, his case is back in the district court, and I still represent him there. The Supreme Court sent it back down, and we're now waiting to see what the government tries to do with the MCA. Sadly, it doesn't seem to be much of an improvement in Mr. Hamdan's case, given the Supreme Court's decision. I think it's pretty clear that it's unconstitutional. It would constitute ex post facto and a bill of attainder. And so, you know, if they try him in the new system, then we're going to have, again, pursue action in the federal courts. There are alternatives. We could have a trial in the federal court. The Supreme Court's made clear that that would be legal, and I would hope to defend him in either place. But, you know, he's my client. I promised him that I'd defend him, and that's what I intend to do.
Some of us have been shaken to the core by all that we are seeing in the last few months pertaining to things like Gitmo and detainment and the rest. How serious do you think all this is, based on your experience with the Hamdan case at Guantanamo Bay, with what's happened to you? To what degree is the fairness of our legal system, even the preservation of our collective legal rights, at risk right now?
Well, you know, the Supreme Court has taken 6 commission cases in their history, and that's actually a tremendous number, given the number of commissions. And in Milligan, the first commission case, this is the same court that decided Dred Scott. They said that no graver issue had ever faced them as a court than the question of the military commissions and the executive entering in to be the sole decider of justice. I think that continues to be true, and it was true at our founding. Thomas Paine said famously that he who would seek liberty must first defend his enemies from oppression, lest he set a precedent that will reach himself. And when we say that you can have a full and fair trial without the accused present, or you can use techniques such as waterboarding to extort a confession and use that, and that's fair, then inevitably that's going to haunt us, and it's going to haunt our children. We have a chance still to stop this, and I'm dedicated to preventing that from happening.
Lieutenant Commander Charles Swift, thanks not only for joining us, thank you for your efforts on behalf of what this country is supposed to stand for, sir.
Thank you, sir.